And calling out specific news outlets, specific shows, even specific reporters for being, quote, dishonest and out of control. Our Blake Berman was there in the thick of it all, and he joins me now from the White House. Blake.
Hi there, Charles. There were two very clear themes over the course of this nearly hour and 15-minute first solo press conference by President Trump here at the White House. The first theme, he said that anything to do with the insinuation that there was anything nefarious between his administration or his campaign at any point between them and Russia is fake news. Consistently blasted the storyline as fake news. And the second, he went after the media. For much of this was contentious between himself and several reporters, in which he blasted the dishonest media, as he called it. Listen.
I won with news conference and probably speeches. I certainly didn't win by people listening to you people, that's for sure. But I'm having a good time. Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people.
That was just a slice of it, Charles. 75 minutes long this approximately went. The president there, you heard him, even though a lot of this was contentious back and forth, eventually say at one point, he was kind of enjoying it. It was almost vintage 2016, I guess you could say, Charles.
I guess you could say. Hey, Blake, perhaps President Trump was enjoying it, but tell us the tone. I mean, when the president left in that room, just your colleagues and these folks who are going to have to deal with President Trump over the next 4 years, maybe 8, how did they feel? Were they dejected or just stunned?
I think I said to Trish Regan on the air immediately that the folks in there needed a green tea or a decaf coffee, because after that, for an hour and 15, I mean, look, Charles, it was contentious. I'm sure there's better words to describe it, but when you're in there, and keep in mind, the president was engaging back and forth. This was not one-sided. For as much as some members of the media were getting up, asking questions, and it was consistently Russia, 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 the president was a willing participant in this for the better part of an hour.
Yeah, that dude from the BBC even, said we could banter back and forth. It's from time to time, it felt like, people in a bar, I thought there was somewhat of a lack of respect at certain points, but it was amazing, and you were in the thick of it. Blake Berman, thank you very much.
Thanks, Charles.
Hey, I want to bring in our panel now. We've got Bob Cusack, Adriana Cohen, and Kelly Riddell. Kelly, it was just one for the ages. What's your assessment of it all?
Well, I think that Donald Trump is his own best press secretary, and if I was Sean Spicer, I'd be nervous about my job. I mean, the best defender of Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Just yesterday, you had the mainstream media go after him for saying that he's not doing press conferences enough, and he's not calling on them. He's only calling on conservative news organizations. And he has taken a shellacking these past few weeks in the press. So today, what did he do? He stood up there for 75 plus minutes and took every question that was hurled at him. And at times it was contentious, but he battled back. And this is something that his voters and his supporters like about him, that he's aggressive and that he's unafraid, he's unwavering in his positions, and that he will defend himself and will defend them who have also taken a grubbing in the media.
And of course, guys, there were some folks who were more in the target of President Trump because he has felt that they have been the ones who have launched this war against him, specifically, of course, CNN and others. I want to take a listen to a new phrase that was coined today, and then we'll pick up the conversation.
I know how good everybody's ratings are right now, but I think that'd actually be better. People, I mean, you have a lower approval rate than Congress. I think that's right.
Just because of the attack of fake news and attacking our network, I just want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine?
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you?
Bob Cusack, very fake news. Listen, again, it was one for the ages. President Trump punching back at the media, who many feel launched a war against him and his campaign, initially considering him something of a laughing stock, and now still bitterly eating their words.
Yeah, I mean, Charles, he's not afraid of the media. I think he enjoys the back and forth, the battle, but he also knows that when it's time to change the narrative. Obviously, the Michael Flynn resignation, firing, whatever you want to call it, was a tough week for the White House, and you had a lot of newspaper headlines that said chaos, and Trump mentioned that. So just like they moved up the announcement of Neil Gorsuch, which went very well for the White House, to change the narrative, and that was a success. The same thing here. This press conference was not announced, and I think that was a wise move to go to take it to the press, who's been beating him up.
Although, I got to say, I think this was more than just simply changing the narrative. You know, Adriana, you're a triple threat, right? You're on TV, radio, newspapers. I want you guys to take a look at a tweet that Chuck Todd put out right after this presser. This is not a laughing matter. I'm sorry. Delegitimizing the press is un-American. Adriana, did you see anything un-American today?
Not at all. And in fact, the media, Trump is absolutely right. The media has been so unethical and so dishonest in his coverage, even going through the campaign. We remember Media Research Center put out a study over 12 weeks that all the major networks, evening networks of mainstream media, bashed Trump 91% of the time. And they gave 440 minutes of negative Trump coverage to controversies and only a fraction of that to Hillary Clinton. And so it is about time that we have a Republican who's pushing back against this dishonest and unethical media. Thank God he has the spine and he's willing to do it. And because, look, President Bush was really harmed, his reputation, by the unfair media. Mitt Romney, they took him down with binders full of women and so many other non-events. And so it's about time that we have a strong and assertive president who can push back on this unethical media. And so now they're being crybabies, like, oh, you're attacking the First Amendment, when so many of these outlets flat out fabricate stories.
You know, Kelly, also for the apolitical types out there, this has got to be very refreshing. Someone who just sort of speaks. They're not trying to speak in a certain way or a certain manner, but just tells it like he believes it is. And of course, that captured the imagination of the nation. But what does it mean for the press going on from here on out?
Well, in these press conferences, Donald Trump has made it very clear he is not talking to the press. He is talking to the American public by way of the press. He is talking directly to them. And a lot of people find this very honest and refreshing in the fact that he's not going over canned talking points, and he'll take every question. Right. Going back to Chuck Todd calling this un-American, attacking the press un-American, just last week in a podcast with Ari Fleischer, he said that the press corps knew that Hillary Clinton was incredibly disliked in the heartland, but they underreported that on purpose because they wanted to be politically correct. The media is delegitimizing itself, and it's delegitimized itself over the past 8 years, basically fawning over President Obama and then underreporting negatives about Hillary Clinton. So they're getting what they deserved. Right. There's a reason why, more Americans trust Donald Trump than they do mainstream media outlets, and that was according to an Emerson poll this week.
So, Bob, essentially, we've got the president who speaks directly to the American public via social media, particularly tweets. And now these press conferences will be his way of, again, taking his message directly to the public without letting the media reinterpret it for him or for themselves.
Yeah, listen, and as a member of the media, I like that he tweets. You get to see what his thought process is, and he makes news. And rarely, sometimes politicians don't tell you what they're thinking, and that's what we really need to know. So without a doubt, this is a new era for the press. Traditionally thin-skinned, but that's a great thing about the First Amendment. Trump can take shots at us, and we can take shots at him. But it's going to be rowdy. Buckle your seatbelts. It's not going to be pretty.
I mean, Adriana, the fact of the matter is that in a world of give and take and checks and balances, the press does need to be called out from time to time. They're not somewhere above it all, are they?
No, why do they get to be protected in this little, this bubble? But Donald Trump in the executive office does not, and they go at him with everything they've got. Relationships are a two-way street. If they want to be treated with respect by the president, they need to show a little respect going towards him. And let me give you a clear example of what's going on here. President Obama deported between 2.5 and 3 million illegal immigrants in this country. No one on CNN or these other outlets accused him of ripping up families, breaking up families. families. But when Donald Trump puts in his executive order, they're accusing him of just that. I was watching CNN the other day and they had a prominent guest on with a piece of paper showing Trump is ripping up families.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the double standard here and the unfair coverage. Americans have gotten smart to this. This has been going on for years and years and years, and they're fed up.
Well,
and that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump won, because a lot of voters tuned out left-wing media.
Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is President Trump. Guys, thanks a lot. Hey, next, just how responsible